Yeah. Joining us from Connecticut, one of my favorite states actually. I've only been there a couple times to New Haven. Is Peter Wolfgang, and he runs our Connecticut organization. A blue state, lots of challenges, Peter. But there you are, and you've been able to make a difference on all sorts of issues. And a lot of the legal debate comes out of the brains of people that get their education in Connecticut. And I love that brilliance is not lost on folks like Peter and his team that are out here. Tell us about the organization. Tell us why you're here. Tell us what you're hoping for today. And I suspect my next question is going to be about the hill you got to climb in Connecticut to bring in state policies.
Thank you, Craig. You know, the joke I like to make is that you hear the phrase culture war a lot. If we're in a culture war, guys like you at Family Policy Alliance, you guys are the generals in the culture war. Guys like me, I'm like a lieutenant leading special forces behind enemy lines. That's what we're doing in Connecticut. We're behind enemy lines. We're in the belly of the beast. We are the state that inflicted Yale on the rest of the country. But we also, you know, a lot of as you alluded to, there's also a lot of good people on our side, a lot of first-rate legal minds. And so I run the Family Institute of Connecticut, the Family Policy Council for our state. We've existed since 1989. I've been the executive director since 2007, and I've been in this fight, the pro-life fight, all my life. Everything else that all the other issues having to do with religious liberty, the breakdown in marriage and family and all the other sort of mutations of family life, to me, it all comes back to Roe versus Wade and abortion. I think that's sort of the original evil of our lifetime. And so what's happening today is so momentous. If we can overturn this, it would be so huge. Going back 48 years, I feel like everything that has sort of infected our society in a bad sense, our government, the fights we have over Supreme Court nominations, the polarization, the acrimony around presidential elections, it all comes back to this. At the end of the day, it's really always been about abortion. It's always been about Roe v. Wade. So we're all here today because we want a world, a country, where every unborn child is welcomed in law and protected in life. And so that's what I hope for today, that we finally see this may be the beginning of the end, or perhaps the end of the beginning, right? Because if Roe versus Wade is overturned, abortion, like so many other evils, are not going to just disappear, and we'll have to like redouble our efforts to do what we can for mothers in crisis to get to that second half of what I said, where every unborn child will be welcomed in life, not just protected in law. But the first step of that is what's happening here. It's the overturning of Roe versus Wade. And as to your second point, your question, you know, what is the hill that we have to climb in the state of Connecticut? That is a very large hill that we have to climb. The last time we were this close to overturning Roe versus Wade in the United States was around the year 1990 or so. And the pro-abortion people were panicking back then. And in Connecticut, unfortunately, over 30 years ago in 1990, they codified Roe versus Wade into our state laws, so that if Roe is overturned, it really doesn't mean anything for Connecticut, at least not immediately, not in the near term, and probably not in the intermediate term. My feeling is it may take 49 years. I mean, if this comes down the way we hope it will, the Dobbs case, we won't know until June or July of next year. So that's about 49 years from Roe v. Wade to the final ruling in Dobbs. It may take another 49 years on top of that to overturn that statute in Connecticut, to get to the place where every unborn child is protected in law in the state of Connecticut. So that's what we're working on. And, you know, we're not going to stop. That's the bad news, is that Connecticut is a very pro-abortion state. You know, I'm not going to lie about us being behind enemy lines. It's quite real. It's a state that really, unfortunately, right now doesn't favor the right to life. But that's the bad news. The good news is there are a lot of pro-life people in Connecticut. When that 1990 law came down, the pro-life movement in the state of Connecticut, we didn't disappear. What we did was we started all the pregnancy care centers. And, you know, whenever you talk to the head of a pregnancy care center in Connecticut, they'll always cite the number 30 years. They'll always say, we've had this center going for 30 years. because that's what happened after the 1990 law. The pro-life movement didn't go away. They said, well, within the limits of the law, what can we still do to save the unborn child? And like the early Christians in ancient Rome that would save the children who would be left exposed to die, that's what we did under, unfortunately, the evil legal regime that we live in the state of Connecticut. And it's had results. It used to be that abortions, the rate, there's about 3.5 million people in Connecticut. Our abortion rate was about 15,000 abortions a year. It has now dropped to less than 10,000, which is still horrible. It's still a genocide. I don't want to dismiss the horribleness of it, but the trajectory is in the right direction. Even apart from the fact that there seems to be this ironclad legal regime in favor of killing the unborn child in Connecticut, the numbers are still dropping. Why, Craig? Because we now have more pregnancy centers, more pro-life pregnancy centers in Connecticut than we do abortion clinics. The abortion clinics are closing. I was present for the closing of one in Bridgeport, Connecticut. The one in Hartford we just chased, it was the last independently owned, meaning it wasn't owned by Planned Parenthood, it was like a local mom and pop operation. The last independently owned abortion clinic in Connecticut is no longer in Hartford. They fled to Bloomfield, which is sort of it's a beautiful sort of black middle class community, a wonderful, like a majority African American, but middle class community. It's really, Bloomfield is this magnificent success story of minority communities in the state of Connecticut. So what did the abortion people do? They dropped an abortion clinic right down there. We are making the churches in Bloomfield aware of that. We're going to continue to go at them. We're going to continue to do everything we can legally, peacefully, respectfully, prayerfully, but we're going to do everything we can to try to close down that clinic and all the clinics in Connecticut, even as we continue to work for the day when the 1990 law was overturned. And we have a lot of good people in Connecticut that I know will continue to work on that. As you said, you have some familiarity with New Haven. I know you played a key role. I read an article on it recently in the life of our former governor, John Rowland, his work now with Prison Fellowship, and we're just, we're at the...
I didn't know that he talked about that publicly. I didn't know that. That's fascinating.
It came out in an article recently.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I think John did talk about that. And
It's okay. Bless him for doing it. But
yeah, no, I'm glad that he did. I think that's very important. It speaks to the familiarity that Family Institute of Connecticut has, the connection we have with the larger movement, with Family Policy Alliance, with you, and that Connecticut, even though we're not a state you're going to hear about a lot when you're hearing about pro-life victories, we are very much in this fight. We have a lot of good people, and we're going to continue to work on this.
Well, God bless you, Peter. And now, for those of us, those of you at home that are watching this that can't be here with us today, what Peter's talking about is critically important. You got to see that we launched After Row today. AfterRow.com. Come and check it out. What Peter is saying is the FPCs in the states didn't just think of this today. They didn't think of what would happen in After Row culture in America today. Beginning in 1990, 31 years ago in Connecticut, they were building the foundation to make other solutions. Abortion is not a problem for the person that has the abortion. It's a solution that falls short of God. It's a solution that kills a life, takes a life. And if we have other solutions for those young women with their problems of fear and guilt or shame or the anxiety that they have, or maybe the father not wanting to be involved in the life of that child, you're providing those solutions. You're already involved in After Row 30 years before the launch today, but today's a big day. Get involved in After Row. Join us. Join our FECs. Those of you in Connecticut, all is not lost. 5,000 children times 30 years, that's 150,000 lives. There's a lot we can do together, so join us with AfterRow.com today.